Today we're going to take a look at factoring. Factoring whenever you have x squared plus bx plus c. Now the b and the c are usually integers, but the important thing to know on this factoring is that there is nothing in front of x squared. If there's a number in front of x squared, then you're going to want to refer to the ax squared plus bx plus c factoring. And so today there is never going to be a number in front of x squared whenever we do this. Now, one of the first things that you have to know in order to be able to factor is what a factor is. Factors are the numbers of the letters that are multiplied together to get another number. Now, one of the things that this kind of assumes is that you know what factors is. So let's quickly kind of just focus in on factors. So if I have 5 times 7, that equals 35. Well, the two numbers that were multiplied together to get 35, those, so our 5 and our 7, are called factors. And you may remember at some point doing a factor tree where you took something like 28 and you broke it down into 7 times 4 because 7 and 4 are factors of 28. And then you took 4 and broke it down to 2 and 2 because 2 times 2 are factors of 4, and you broke it down to its simplest factors. So all those are factors, and the important concept out of that is that you have two things that are being multiplied together. And so when we look at the stuff today and we ask what are the factors, they're wanting to know what two things are multiplied together. Now, unfortunately, it's not going to be as simple as 5 and 7, but that's the idea behind this. So in using that same idea, we're going to start with the multiplication problem, and then we're going to go back and figure out what our factors are. So we've seen these problems before, and we use FOIL on these right here. And so we're multiplying two binomials, and FOIL says to do first, which gives me x squared, and then outside, which gives me plus 3x, and then inside gives me plus 2x, and then last is 2 times 3, which gives me plus 6. And then we combine our two middle terms, and we get x squared plus 5x plus 6. So hopefully you can see the x squared plus bx, in this case b is 5, plus c, and 6 is c. And what we're going to be doing is they're going to give us this right here originally. This is what they're going to give us. And we're going to have to go back and we're going to have to find the factors. So what are the factors? Well, the factors are the x plus 2 and the x plus 3. Those are our factors right there. And so they're going to give us x squared plus 5x plus 6, and we have to go find x plus 2 times x plus 3. Obviously, that looks kind of difficult if you're given this. How are you going to come up with x plus 2 and x plus 3? But there's a certain pattern, and this pattern is always present in these questions. And so if we can find this pattern, then it's actually pretty easy to come up with these factors. The pattern that we have here is, I want you to notice that my b, which is 5, is my factors that are added. So added factors. So if you look at 2 plus 3, that equals 5. And then if you look at c here, which is 6, it's the factors multiplied. So multiplied factors. And so whenever we're working these out, we're going to be looking for two factors that when you add them together make b, and when you multiply them make c. And once again, b, right above my 5, this is the b, and this is the c. Okay, so 6 is the c, and 5 is the b. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to make 6, but when you add them together, you get 5. Obviously, 2 and 3 of those factors. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at another set of questions. The absolute best thing to do on these is to just simply practice them. It looks confusing at first, but the more that you see them, the better that you get. And so when we start off, we're looking for two numbers that will multiply to make a positive. When you add them, make a positive 7. Well, the best thing to do is to take our very last number right here and start coming up with the factors. And so my factors of 10 are 1 and 10. 2 times 5 makes 10. We could also look at the negative version. Negative 1 times negative 10 makes a positive 10. And negative 2 times negative 5 makes a positive 10. So these four combinations make a positive 10. Now, we want to look at these and say, well, which of these combines to make a positive 7? Well, first off, 1 plus 10 is 11. So that's not it. When I get to 2 plus 5, 2 plus 5 is 7, which is what I was looking for. So my factors are going to be 2 and 5. Now, once you find your factors, remember, these are two binomials that are being multiplied to each other. And because there's no number in front of x squared, we can go ahead and put x and x here, because x times x is x squared. And then we put our factors down. Now, the 2 is positive, so we'll put plus 2. The 5 is positive, so we'll put plus 5. And these are my factors for x squared plus 7x plus 10. So to begin with, it looks kind of hard, but if you can simply find your factors of 10, so that's two numbers that multiply to make 10, but then they add to make 7, then after you get that, it's really easy to find your two factors. So taking a look at another one, we're going to start with our last number, 20, and we want to come up with all the factors of 20, and we're looking for the one that will give me a positive 9. So I've got 1 times 20. On the converse, negative 1 and negative 20. I have 2 times 10 and negative 2 times negative 10. And I've got 4 times 5. And right when I get to 4 times 5, I notice that 4 plus 5 is equal to 9. Now, if I would have noticed it a lot earlier, if you would have looked at 20 and known that 4 times 5 is 20 and that they add up to 9, you don't have to write the rest of these down. You simply have to write them down until you find your answer. And so 4 plus 5 is 9, so my factors are x, and it's a positive 4, so we'll put x plus 4, and then x plus 5. Obviously, if you struggle multiplying, then you may struggle with factors a little bit, and you may have to use a calculator to help you figure out what your factors are. But once you figure out your factors and you figure out which ones add up to be the middle number, then you've got your answer. So taking a look at another one. Now, this one's a little bit different, because this one, whenever we get our factors of 12, we want them to add up to be a negative 8. And so when I start going through my factors of 1 and 12, well, that adds up to 13. Well, I need a negative number, so I'm definitely going to take a look at the negative 1 and negative 12. Well, that adds up to a negative 13, so that's not it. I know I'm going to need a negative version, so I'm going to go negative 2 times negative 6, and negative 2 plus negative 6 is negative 8. So I've got my factors, so I can go ahead and create x, and it's a negative 2, so it's x minus 2, and parentheses x minus 6, and I have my two factors. Okay, looking at another one. Okay, this one, I'm not trying to get a positive number. I'm trying to get a negative 10. Now, it's very important that you recognize this negative, because if you come up with factors of 1 times 10, well, that gets you a positive 10. So even if it were to somehow equal 3, it still doesn't count. It needs to be something that equals negative 10. So it's got to be negative 1 times 10 or 1 times a negative 10. Either of these make a negative 10. However, negative 1 plus 10 is equal to a positive 9, and 1 plus a negative 10 is equal to a negative 9, so neither of those would work. So we keep looking, and we'll go negative 2 times 5 and 2 times negative 5. So we take a look at these, and negative 2 plus 5 is a positive 3. And so this is the one that we're looking for right here. So then when we go to create our two factors, we're going to go x minus 2 and x plus 5. And that's our answer right there. Okay, taking a look at another one. We're trying to get negative 18. And so once again, this has to be negative. So negative 1 times 18, 1 times negative 18. Okay, the top one, when you add them, would give me 17. The bottom one, negative 17. So that's not it. We have 2 times a negative 9 and negative 2 times 9. And so I know 2 plus a negative 9 is a negative 7, and I do want the negative version. So this is the one that we want right here. And so we're going to go x plus 2 and x minus 9. And that's the end. So right there, like I said, when you first start doing this, it may seem kind of difficult at first, but what you have to do is you just have to keep doing a lot of these, and the more that you do of these, you'll really get down that pattern of I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to make the last number, but when you add them, make that middle number. And once you get that, then obviously you've got your answer.